Chapter 27 The New Immigrant, New Series. The New Immigrant. Previous immigrants had come mostly from Western and Northern Europe, but the new immigrants in the 1880s were from Eastern Europe and Southern Europe, as well as Asia and Mexico. The reason for both waves of immigration were mostly the same. Immigrants strive to escape the overcrowding, religious and political persecution, and economic problems of their homelands. They hope for a better life in America. Ellis Island. After immigrants completed the often treacherous, dangerous journey to the U.S., they had one last hurdle to cross: the Immigration Processing Center, where their health, legal status, and destination were confirmed. Many people had their names misspelled, shortened, and otherwise Americanized. The most famous immigration processing center was Ellis Island in New York Harbor. Most of those who came through Ellis Island were Europe. Asia usually enter the U.S. through the Bay Area's Angel Island, and Mexican immigrants tend to arrive through an immigrant center in El Paso, Texas. The State of Liberty, installed in New York Harbor in 1886, was a gift to the U.S. from France. The poem on the base of the state includes the famous line, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled message, earning to finish free." Earning, long desire. From the New Colossus by Emma Lazarus. To many immigrants, the first sight of the stage represents a new beginning and the American dream. Becoming American. Like previous immigrants, the new immigrant tended to settle in ethnic neighborhood where they could continue speaking the language and practicing the religion, cuisine, and traditions of their homeland. However, the new immigrants were more recognizably different, and the diversity brought to cities was often seen as a negative. Some U.S. citizens feared the immigrants would take jobs away from citizens by working for less, while others saw that the immigrants should assimilate into American culture so quickly as possible. Assimilate to blend. Nativism on opposition to immigrants was on the rise again. As it turned out, many immigrants, including women and children, ended up working in factories or sweatshops under harsh conditions for very low pay. Sweatshop, a factory defined by its poor working conditions and low wages. Immigrant farmers could not afford to purchase their own land in America, so they had no choice but to accept the work. In 1882, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, which banned immigration from China for 10 years. The act was renewed twice for a total of 30 years. Congress also limited immigration from Japan and unsuccessfully attempted to restrict all immigration by illiterate persons. Convicts and people with certain illness were banned from coming to the U.S. Although immigrants were encouraged to Americanize, the noting of being American was difficult to define. as immigrant assimilated, they changed what it meant to be American. America was becoming a melting point, a blending of cultures. Urbanization. Most immigrants moved to cities as machinery reduced the need for farm labor. Those workers began coming to cities in the north for factory work, as did many African Americans from the south. It was a time of great urbanization or growth of cities. City life. Turn of the century, cities were a place of innovation and excitement. The steel industry and the invention of the elevator, patented by Elisha Otis, allowed building to be taller, building up rather than out conserved city space. The first skyscraper was a 10-story building constructed in Chicago in 1884. Next time you are in an elevator, look for a logo. The Otis Elevator Company is still a major producer of elevators. Public transportation enabled travel. San Francisco installed the cable cars in 1873. The Richmond, Virginia introduced trolley electric cars to replace horse-drawn streetcars. Boston opened up its subway system in 1897 and New York City followed in 1904. Construction of Central Park was completed in 1873, designed by Frederick Law Olmsted. The park was built when New York recognized the importance of having a green space. Other major parks were built during the same time period. Cities were still in need of development. The working class often lived in dangerous tenements that were unhygienic and overcrowded. Areas with many tenements became slums, which led to increased crime. City sewage systems were not equipped to handle so many people. Earthquakes and fires could destroy large sections of cities at a time because of unsafe building standards. This problem encouraged the growing middle class to move to the suburbs, now easier to reach because of the better transportation. Reforming the cities. Local government did little to address the problem of the cities, especially for immigrants. However, individual activities try to make a difference. Photojournalist Jaco Lees took photos of slums to express their terrible conditions. Others set up settlement houses to provide social service to the poor. New York's Neighborhood Guild, founded in 1886 by Charles Stover and Stanton Coit, was the first. The most famous settlement house was Chicago's Hull House, founded in 1889 by James Adams and Ellen Gates Starr.